God and creation. Since the complete submission of one's will to God represents the essence of worship, the central message of Islam, the divine religion of God, is the worship of God alone. It requires avoiding the worship of any person, place or thing other than God. Since everything except God, the creator of all things, is God's creation, it can be said that Islam essentially calls man away from the worship of creation and invites him to worship only his creator. He alone deserves the worship of man, for by his will the prayers are accepted. Accordingly, if a person prays to a tree and his prayer is answered, it is not the tree that answers his prayer, but God, who allows the circumstances to occur. Was prayed for. One might say, that's obvious. However, for tree worshippers, this may not be the case. Similarly, prayers to Jesus, Buddha, or Krishna or Saint Christopher, or Saint Jude or even Muhammad are not answered by them, but by God. Jesus did not tell his followers to worship himself but to worship God, as the Quran says. And on Judgment Day Allah will say, O Jesus, son of Mary, did you ever ask the people to worship you and your mother as gods besides Allah? He will answer, Glory be to you. How could I ever say what I had no right to say? Quran 5. 116. And neither did Jesus worship himself when he worshipped, but he worshipped God. And in the Gospel it is said about Jesus that it is written, Worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve. Luke 4:8. This basic principle is contained in the opening chapter of the Quran, called Surah Fatiha, verse 4. You alone do we worship, and you alone do we seek help. Quran 1:4. In another place, in the last book of Revelation, the Holy Quran, God said, And your Lord says, Call on me, and I will answer your prayer. Quran 40:60. It is worth emphasizing that the basic message of Islam, I worship of God alone, also declares that God and his creatures are separate entities. God is not equal to his creation nor any part of it, and neither is his creation equal to him nor is it a part. This might seem obvious, but man's worship of creation, instead of the Creator, is to a large degree based on ignorance or neglect of this concept. It is the belief that the essence of God is everywhere in his creation, or that his divine being is or was present in some parts of his creation, which has provided justification for the worship of God's creation and naming it the worship of God. However, the message of Islam, as brought by the prophets of God, is to worship only God and to avoid the worship of his creation either directly or indirectly. In the Quran, God clearly states, For we assuredly sent amongst every people a prophet, with the command worship Allah and avoid false gods. Quran 16:36. When idol worshippers are questioned as to why they bow down to idols created by men, the invariable reply is that they are not actually worshipping the stone image, but God, who is present within it. They claim that the stone idol is only a focal point for God's essence and is not in itself God. One who has accepted the concept of God being present in any way within his creation will be obliged to accept this argument for idolatry. Whereas, one who understands the basic message of Islam and its implications would never agree to idolatry no matter how it is rationalized. Those who have claimed divinity for themselves down through the ages have often based their claims on the mistaken belief that God is present in man. Taking one step further, they claim that God is more present in them than in the rest of us, and that other humans should therefore submit to them and worship them as God in person or as God concentrated within their persons. Similarly, those who have asserted the godhood of others after their deaths have found fertile ground among those who accept the false belief of God's presence in man. It should be abundantly clear by now that one who has grasped the basic message of Islam and its implications could never agree to worship another human being under any circumstance. God's religion, in essence, is a clear call to the worship of the Creator and the rejection of creation worship in any form. This is the meaning of the motto of Islam, "There is no God but Allah." The sincere declaration of this phrase and the acceptance of prophethood automatically bring one within the fold of Islam, and sincere belief in it guarantees one paradise. Thus, the final prophet of Islam, P.B.U.H, is reported to have said, "Anyone who says, 'There is no God but Allah,' and dies holding that belief, will enter paradise." Belief in this declaration of faith requires that one submit his/her will to God in the way taught by the prophets of God. It also requires the believer to give up the worship of false gods. We ask Allah, the Exalted, to keep us on the right path to which He has guided us, and to bestow on us His blessings and mercy, for He is indeed the most merciful. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, and peace and blessings be on Prophet Muhammad and on all the prophets of God and their righteous followers.